This is ICASTnews.com, live and direct from United Nations headquarters in New York City on the banks of the East River, and this is a Cafe Forum 10 by 20. We're discussing oceans, ocean pollution and solutions, and joining us is one of the great strong men of the United Nations, Amir Dassal. Mr. Dassal has been here for, well, it seems like forever, but at least since the mid-'80s, and he's headed the global partnership. He headed the initiative for a digital future. Now he's busy with global ocean alliances, and he's here to talk to us about the importance of the 10 by 20 initiative, which is getting a lot of traction now that we've had the first UN Oceans Conference, which concluded 2 weeks ago. Mr. Dassal, welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. I'm honored to be here. This is very exciting.
Well, let's explain to our audience, first of all, what is 10 by 20?
So 10 by 20 is one of the few targets in the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which is focused on getting concrete results. This is to create 10% marine protected areas by 2020 using the best available science. And we are privileged to be working on this space. The Ocean Sanctuary Alliance, which is a not-for-profit, launched this with the support and leadership of a number of member states. The 10 by 20 initiative is chaired by Italy, Ambassador Cardi from Italy. It has huge support from the Bahamas, Ambassador Raming, Poland, Ambassador Winid, Kenya, Ambassador Kamau, as well as Palau, Ambassador Uludong. So it's not just these 5 member states, but there are many others as part of the movement. And the idea is very simple. How can we protect our oceans to make it healthy for future generations? How can we save on overfishing? The biggest challenge today is, with respect to the seas and oceans, is the fishing community, which is struggling. As a result of overfishing, they're not able to meet their daily needs.
It's more than just overfishing, isn't it? Climate change and how warm it's getting. I read that right by us, around the bend from the East River in Long Island Sound, there used to be oysters, there used to be lobster fishing, there used to be people who lived by being on their boats, and none of that exists anymore.
Absolutely right. And this is where we need to inform the public. So ICASTnews.com is a great way to tell the story. We want to use this platform to tell people around the world that they should join this movement to create healthier oceans, and that means avoid pollution.
And there's something very specific here. Sometimes at the UN we get too much into acronyms, right? And little names. But there's something called MPA, Marine Protected Areas. Right now, depending who you ask, there's 1 or 2%. Woods Hole says 1% of the world's got MPAs. I heard at the Oceans Conference 2%. What's an MPA and why does it matter?
So the MPA, as you rightly point out, is the Marine Protected Area where governments, and this is sovereign member states, would create and zone that particular part of the sea. And that's not going to the high seas, but just nearby areas, to protect and allow and not allow others to fish there. Protect marine life, take advantage of the biodiversity. The pollution aspects. We've got plastics in the sea, which is impacting the fish. And that's the fish we can consume at the end of the day. So at the UN, and I have to applaud the member states of the United Nations for coming up with this very important goal. And depending on which country you speak with, their targets, we want to achieve 10% by year 2020. So we don't have much time left. We've got 3.5 years, less than 3.5 years left. Some countries have already started to make inroads into that. The Bahamas, for example, is already ahead. They've reached their 10% target.
They've reached 10% already.
Yes, sir.
And so that means it really is better in the Bahamas.
Much better, indeed. As they say, when you want to take a break, go to the Bahamas, you will see how the Bahamas National Trust, for example, is responsible for creating these MPAs, zoning the areas, and they're doing amazing work. Palau, which is a small country with 33,000 inhabitants, President Remengesau made a major announcement 2 years ago, and he has followed that through, of zoning the entire area of Palau as marine protected. And there are a number of foundations, NGOs who are supporting this effort, including the Pew Charitable Trust, for example. You've got Sir Richard Branson involved in that as well, and so on. But it's not enough. There are many countries who rely on fishing for their livelihoods.
Or rely on oil drilling off their coasts for their livelihoods.
Yes. And so we need to find economic alternatives for those countries, those islands. The countries which suffer the most are the small island developing countries, what we call SIDS in the UN terminology. I'm sorry, I'm using an acronym.
Oh yeah, but we know about them. We gave them a lot of coverage.
Great.
Nauru is the smallest.
Nauru
is a
absolutely.
great example.
Very good example. And they have a challenge because if they do not use their sea for economic returns, then they will be in dire poverty.
The president of Nauru, Baron Waka, said in his speech that what timber is to you on the land, tuna is to us on Nauru.
Yes, absolutely. And Professor Sanders, you mentioned something very important, that 2 weeks ago we had the UN Ocean Conference. That was amazing. It generated a lot of buzz, a lot of interest amongst not just member states, but also private sector, civil society, academia. You see, you cannot do anything unless you have proper research. So academic leadership is key for this purpose. And our goal through the Ocean Sanctuary Alliance, and I'm privileged to be part of this exciting initiative, is bring the best available science to the table, use that to implement these strategies, help governments achieve that. We are just enablers, if you like. We help governments make it happen.
Well, if we don't make it happen, we're all in very big trouble, because although we call this planet Earth, it's 7/10 water. And so we're very interested here at ICAST News on following this initiative. 10 by 20 is not too long away. 2020 is coming right around the corner.
Right.
So we intend to have a long series of broadcasts devoted to enlightening people on the issue, debating the problems in the issue, looking at the obstacles in the issue, and trying to get especially young people throughout the world engaged in pushing this agenda.
Thank you. I'm so pleased you mentioned young people, because those are the people we're working for at the end of the day. It's for future generations. We need to leave this planet in a better state than we found it. And I think, so to say, the elders are beginning to realize that that's a priority.
I think you're exactly right. I thought the President of the General Assembly put it well in his welcoming address, where he said, we've made this problem, we humans have to fix it.
Fix it. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I look forward to seeing you again, and look forward to 10 by 20 proceeding rapidly.
Thank you very much for having me.
My
Honored to be
pleasure.
here.
For ICASTnews.com, live and direct from United Nations headquarters on the banks of the river here in New York City, for Cafe Forum Ocean Dialogue 10 by 20, I'm Jonathan Sanders.